chosen one. Stop for a moment and breathe, because this Friday is not moving like other Fridays you have known. You can feel it in your spirit even if your mind keeps trying to rationalize it away. Something has been tightening around you all week, like the air before a storm, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that clears the sky. You are not imagining this. You are not being dramatic. You are standing at the edge of a shift that does not announce itself with noise, but with pressure. You have noticed how small things suddenly feel heavy. A conversation at work that should have been simple lingers in your thoughts. An email about money, bills, or a deadline hits harder than usual. At home, silence feels louder, and questions you have avoided now sit beside you at the table. This is not punishment. This is positioning. Friday is a turning point because heaven often moves quietly, adjusting what must change before the new month can carry you forward. There are moments when you wonder if you missed your chance already. You replay past decisions, wondering if obedience delayed you or if waiting cost you more than acting would have. But hear this clearly: what feels like delay has been preparation. What felt like being overlooked was actually protection. You were not being denied, you were being refined. That is why this shift feels both heavy and hopeful at the same time. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Let that settle into you. Appointed time, not random, not late. Appointed. This Friday is not about forcing doors open. It is about recognizing which doors are already unlocked. You may still be sitting at the same desk, driving the same road, or waking up next to the same problem, but something unseen is aligning. Heaven does not rush, but it never misses. Picture this: you are at work, doing your job faithfully, yet feeling invisible. Others seem to advance faster, speak louder, be noticed more. You have wondered if integrity is even worth it anymore. But this shift is not always announced with a promotion letter on Friday afternoon. Sometimes it comes as clarity. You suddenly know which opportunity to stop chasing. You suddenly feel peace saying no. That inner alignment is part of the breakthrough. Or maybe it is financial. You have been budgeting carefully, cutting back, praying over numbers that never seem to stretch far enough. The shift does not always come as a miracle deposit. Sometimes it comes as wisdom, a new idea, a conversation, a release from fear that allows you to manage what you already have with confidence instead of panic. That change in posture opens doors. Panic never could. At home, you might feel the tension most. A relationship that feels distant. Words left unsaid. You want resolution, but you are tired of being the one who always tries first. This Friday is not about forcing reconciliation. It is about softening your heart without hardening your boundaries. Peace begins there, and peace is a sign that heaven is near. Do not underestimate subtle shifts, a calmer reaction, a clearer boundary, a decision to rest instead of spiral. These are not small things. They are evidence that you are crossing into a new rhythm. The old month trained you to survive. The new month will teach you how to build. Still, there is a warning wrapped in grace. Do not numb yourself right now. Do not distract your spirit with endless scrolling, noise, or avoidance. You are too close to clarity to silence it. Pay attention to what keeps repeating in your thoughts. Pay attention to what drains you versus what strengthens you. Heaven is speaking through patterns, not panic. This is why you must not give up this week. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not quietly in your heart. Even if nothing looks different by Friday night, Something will be different within you, and that difference will carry power into the days ahead. Shifts often begin inside before they show up outside. Let me ask you directly, what is the one thing you feel prompted to change, but have been postponing because it feels uncomfortable? Hope is not vague here. Hope looks like waking up next week with direction instead of dread. Hope looks like making one brave decision that your future self will thank you for. Hope looks like peace that does not depend on circumstances changing overnight. That kind of hope does not disappoint. If this message resonates with you, take a moment now to like and share it with someone who needs clarity this week, and subscribe so you stay connected to what is coming next. Do not walk into this new month alone. At the end of this section, I invite you to make a simple prophetic response. If you feel that this Friday marks a turning point for you, comment 77 as a sign that you are ready to align with what God is shifting. The resistance you have been feeling lately did not come out of nowhere. It did not begin because you suddenly became weak, distracted, or less faithful. It intensified because you are nearing a threshold. Pressure always increases right before alignment, and confusion often shows up when clarity is about to be revealed. You are not losing your way. You are shedding what no longer fits where you are going. Think about the last few weeks. Tasks that once felt manageable now seem draining. People who used to understand you suddenly misunderstand your intentions. Simple decisions feel heavier than they should. This is not because you are regressing. It is because your spirit is outgrowing old environments. Growth creates friction. Expansion exposes misalignment. There is a reason resistance rarely shows up when you are stagnant. It shows up when movement is inevitable. That is why your mind has been unusually loud, replaying doubts, resurrecting old fears, and asking questions you thought you had already answered. The enemy of your peace does not need to invent new lies when old ones can be recycled at the right moment. But the timing reveals the truth. You are close. Consider a real-life situation. At work, you may notice that your motivation dips not because you are lazy, but because your values no longer align with the direction things are going. You are doing your job well, yet something inside you resists settling. That resistance is not rebellion, it is discernment. It is the signal that you are meant for more responsibility, more meaning, or a different assignment altogether. In your finances, resistance may look like fear tightening its grip just as you start thinking bigger. You imagine stability, maybe even abundance, and suddenly anxiety speaks up. What if you fail? What if you lose what little you have? This is not wisdom. Wisdom brings clarity. Fear brings paralysis. The resistance is loud because expansion is near. Even in your family or closest relationships, you may feel tension where there used to be ease. You are learning to speak honestly, to set boundaries, to grow into who you are becoming. Not everyone grows at the same pace, and that can feel lonely. Resistance often comes disguised as guilt, making you question whether choosing growth makes you selfish. It does not. It makes you faithful to who you are called to be. The Apostle Paul wrote in the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 7, "The mind governed by the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so." This is not about condemnation. It is about awareness. When resistance rises, it is often the flesh fighting alignment with the spirit. Old habits resist new discipline. Old identities resist new callings. The part of you that learned to survive now resists the part of you that is ready to build. This inner conflict is a sign that transformation is active, not absent. Notice how resistance tries to rush you or freeze you. It says, decide everything now or do nothing at all. Both extremes are traps. Alignment moves with calm authority. It does not panic, and it does not procrastinate. When you slow down enough to listen, you can feel the difference between fear-driven urgency and spirit-led timing. Here is where hope becomes practical. Resistance does not mean you are on the wrong path. It often means you are on the right one. The discomfort you feel is not there to stop you, but to strengthen your discernment. Each time you choose patience over panic, clarity over noise, you weaken the grip of confusion. Imagine this: you wake up one morning and realize the thoughts that used to spiral no longer have the same power. The situation may not have changed yet, but your response has. That is progress. That is evidence that the shift is already unfolding internally. External change follows internal alignment. Resistance also reveals what still needs healing. When something triggers you strongly, it is often pointing to an area God wants to stabilize, not shame. You are not being exposed to be embarrassed. You are being revealed to be restored. That is a hopeful process, even when it feels uncomfortable. Ask yourself honestly, what has been resisting you the most lately? And what might that resistance be trying to prepare you for? You are not meant to fight this season blindly. You are meant to move through it with understanding. Resistance loses its power when you stop personalizing it and start interpreting it. This is not about you being inadequate. This is about you being upgraded. The pressure will not last forever, but the strength it produces will. When the resistance fades, you will notice something surprising. Confidence replaces confusion. Peace replaces urgency. And direction replaces doubt. You will realize that what once felt like opposition was actually the training ground for the next level of your life. Stay steady, stay observant. This resistance is temporary, but what it is shaping in you is permanent. You are not being pushed backward. You are being anchored deeper. Soon you will look back and recognize this resistance as the moment your roots went down instead of your faith giving up. What steadies you now will support everything that rises next. There comes a moment when heaven intervenes not with thunder, but with interruption. You are moving through your days, doing what you know how to do, carrying responsibilities that have become routine. When suddenly something inside you slows everything down. You feel it as hesitation, as fatigue, as a quiet question rising from deep within. Why am I still forcing this? That moment is not weakness. That moment is divine interference. You have been strong for a long time. Strong at work, strong in your family, strong in your faith, even when no one noticed the weight you were carrying. You learned how to function while tired, how to smile while uncertain, how to keep going when answers were delayed. But there comes a point when endurance alone is no longer the assignment. Heaven steps in when strength turns into strain. Intervention does not always remove the burden immediately. Sometimes it removes the illusion that you were meant to carry it alone. You may notice that your usual strategies stop working. Productivity drops. Motivation fades. What once felt manageable now feels heavy. This is not because you are failing. It is because grace is shifting how you are meant to move forward. Think about your job. You may still be showing up, still meeting expectations, but something feels misaligned. Tasks drain you faster. You start asking deeper questions about purpose, not just paycheck. Heaven intervenes by unsettling comfort, not to harm you, but to prevent you from building your future on something that cannot sustain your calling. Or consider your finances. You have tried to plan carefully, to be responsible, to control every outcome. Yet unexpected expenses appear. Delays happen. It feels frustrating, even unfair. But sometimes divine intervention disrupts your sense of control so that trust can be rebuilt on firmer ground. Control exhausts you. Trust steadies you. In family and relationships, intervention can feel even more confusing. A conversation does not go as expected. Distance grows where closeness once lived. You try harder, explain more, give more, yet feel less understood. Heaven intervenes here not by forcing people to change, but by teaching you discernment. Not every relationship is meant to grow in the same season. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This verse is often quoted, but rarely felt in the middle of disruption. Yet this is exactly where it applies. Intervention feels like interruption before it feels like hope. You do not recognize the future while the present is being rearranged. You only see it later, when clarity replaces confusion. Here is the truth many avoid. God often intervenes when obedience collides with exhaustion. You have been doing the right things, but in your own strength for too long. Heaven steps in not to scold you, but to sustain you. Grace does not wait for collapse. It interrupts before burnout becomes damage. There is a subtle mercy in unanswered prayers. There is protection in delayed movement. If everything you asked for arrived immediately, it might have crushed the version of you that was not ready yet. Intervention prepares you internally for what is coming externally. Picture a normal day. You are driving, thinking about everything you still need to fix, plan, and resolve. Suddenly, you feel an unexplainable calm wash over you. The situation has not changed, but your breathing has. That calm is not denial. It is heaven reminding you that you are not alone in this process. Intervention also brings redirection. You may feel drawn to rest when you usually push. Drawn to silence when you usually fill space with noise. Drawn to prayer that feels honest instead of polished. These are signs that your spirit is being recalibrated. This is not regression, this is renewal. Ask yourself this, where have you been pushing forward when you were meant to pause and listen? Hope here is not abstract. Hope looks like waking up without the knot in your stomach. Hope looks like trusting that you do not have to have everything figured out this week. Hope looks like knowing that even if plans change, purpose does not. Heaven intervenes to remind you of something vital. Your worth is not measured by output. Your value does not increase when you exhaust yourself. You are not saved by striving. You are guided by grace. Right now, you are being asked to acknowledge the intervention instead of resisting it. When you stop fighting the pause, you start receiving clarity. When you stop demanding answers, you start recognizing direction. This is why I want you to respond. Not out of habit, but out of alignment. If you feel that heaven is intervening in your life right now, even if you do not fully understand how, comment I trust you. That simple response is not for performance. It is a declaration. It is you choosing trust over control, alignment over anxiety, surrender over struggle. You are not being interrupted to be delayed. You are being interrupted to be directed. What feels like a pause is actually a turn, and where you are being turned toward will make sense soon. Stay present. Stay open. Heaven does not intervene without intention. There is a moment recorded in the story of Exodus when a people did not just leave a place, they crossed into time differently. Slavery ended, not only in geography, but in rhythm. God did not merely lead them out of Egypt, He gave them a new beginning of months, a reset of identity, a recalibration of life itself. What they had known as normal was no longer allowed to define what came next. A nation stepped into its first new month as free people, even though the wilderness still lay ahead. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Exodus, Matzo. Chapter 12, verse 2. This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. This is not just history. This is pattern. Before the Red Sea ever parted, before provision fell from the sky, before the land of promise was even visible, God changed their calendar. Freedom began with how they measured time. That is important for you right now, because this new month is not just another page turning. It is an invitation to stop counting your life by survival and start counting it by alignment. You may still be living in the same city, working the same job, paying the same bills. On the surface, nothing looks dramatically different. But just like the Israelites on that first new month, the chains had already broken even though the journey was not finished. The shift was real before the evidence was obvious. Think about your daily life. You wake up, check your phone, rush into responsibilities, carry expectations that were never fully yours to begin with. Somewhere along the way, you learned to function under pressure so long that pressure began to feel normal. Egypt does that. It convinces you that exhaustion is just life. But a new month interrupts that lie. Crossing into a new month does not mean all problems disappear. The Israelites still had uncertainty ahead of them. What changed was who defined their future. No longer Pharaoh, no longer fear, no longer systems built on scarcity. God marked time differently for them because he was about to deal with them differently. In your work life, this might mean redefining success. You may have been measuring yourself by approval, deadlines, or numbers that never feel like enough. This new month invites you to measure progress by peace, by integrity, by whether your work aligns with who you are becoming, not just what you are producing. In your finances, a new month does not instantly erase responsibility, but it changes posture. You stop operating from panic and start operating from stewardship. You make decisions with clarity instead of fear. Like the Israelites gathering what they needed for the journey. Not hoarding, not starving, but trusting provision would meet obedience. In your family or relationships, the new month may ask you to stop reenacting old patterns. You do not have to argue the same way. You do not have to carry the same silence. You do not have to repeat the same cycles. Egypt teaches repetition. Freedom introduces choice. Here is the hope that often gets missed. God did not give them a new month after they arrived safely. He gave it while they were still vulnerable. That tells you something powerful. You do not need everything figured out to step into a new season. You need alignment, not certainty. Ask yourself this honestly: what would change if you stopped living like the past still had authority over your future? This is where the shift becomes personal. A new month invites you to decide what no longer gets to follow you. Old mindsets, old guilt, old definitions of yourself. You do not deny the past. You stop letting it dictate your pace. The wilderness taught the people dependence, but the new month taught them identity. They were no longer slaves traveling. They were a people being formed. That distinction matters. You are not someone escaping your past. You are someone being shaped for what comes next. There is something gentle yet powerful about choosing to mark this moment. Just as one might light a candle not because the room is dark, but because the light is meaningful. Engaging with this message is not obligation. It is resonance. If these words are helping you see your life more clearly, sharing them is like pointing a lantern along the path for someone else. Staying connected is like choosing to walk this road together rather than alone. No one forced the Israelites to count time differently. It was an invitation. And the beauty of invitations is that they honor choice. So as this new month opens, let it be more than a date change. Let it be a declaration. You are not rushing. You are not trapped. You are not behind. You are aligned. The chains may already be off, even if the road ahead is still forming. And that is enough to step forward with courage. You step into this month not as someone escaping fear, but as someone learning how to walk in freedom. Each day becomes a quiet agreement with heaven that the past no longer sets the tempo of your life. There is a quiet danger in moments of transition, and it is not the change itself, it is impulsive movement. When a shift is near, emotions rise, hope mixes with fear. Relief blends with urgency. That is why this section is not about warning you of what might go wrong, but guiding you through how to walk wisely while everything feels intense. Wisdom in transition protects momentum. One of the most practical instructions for this season is simple, yet difficult. Do not make permanent decisions while emotions are peaking. When feelings are high, perspective is low. You may feel tempted to quit suddenly. Confront aggressively. Spend impulsively, or speak words you cannot retrieve. Emotion demands release. Wisdom asks for timing. The book of Proverbs reminds us, chapter 19, verse 2. Desire without knowledge is not good, and whoever makes haste with his feet misses his way. This is not a rebuke, it is protection. You are not wrong for feeling deeply. You are human, but feelings are indicators, not commanders. Let them inform you, not rule you. Picture a normal situation. You receive a message at work that feels dismissive or unfair. Your chest tightens. Your mind races with responses. Then this is the moment to pause. Not because your feelings are invalid, but because responding from intensity often damages what clarity could improve. Wait until your breathing steadies. Then decide. Another instruction for this season: do not interpret silence too quickly. Silence is not always rejection. It is not always delay, and it is rarely the full story. In relationships, silence may mean someone is processing. In work, it may mean decisions are still forming. In prayer, it may mean trust is being stretched. You have likely experienced this: sending a message and waiting, checking your phone repeatedly, filling the gap with assumptions. Did I say something wrong? Did they forget about me? Did God stop listening? Silence becomes a canvas for fear if you let it. Wisdom refuses to paint conclusions without evidence. Here is a grounding practice when silence appears. Return to what you know, not what you fear. You know your character. You know your effort. You know that alignment does not depend on instant responses. Let silence mature you, not torment you. Another practical instruction: protect your energy more than your image. In transition, you do not owe everyone an explanation. You may feel pressure to justify your boundaries, your rest, your slower pace. You do not need to. Over-explaining is often a sign that you are still seeking permission. Alignment does not require approval. In family life, this may look like declining gatherings when you need rest without guilt. In friendships, it may mean allowing some distance without drama. In finances, it may mean saying no to spending that looks good publicly but strains you privately. These are not selfish choices, they are stabilizing ones. Also, be careful not to spiritualize avoidance. Rest is healthy, withdrawal is not always. The difference is intention. Rest restores you, avoidance numbs you. Ask yourself, am I stepping back to listen or stepping away to escape? That honest question keeps you grounded. A very real daily example: you come home exhausted, mind full, heart heavy. You reach for distractions to quiet the noise. There is nothing wrong with rest, But this season invites intentional stillness. Even 10 quiet minutes can recalibrate your spirit. You do not need dramatic rituals. You need consistency. Another instruction: write things down. Thoughts feel overwhelming because they stay uncontained. When you write, you slow them down. You see patterns. You separate what is urgent from what is important. This simple habit brings clarity that emotion alone cannot. Now ask yourself directly, what decision have you been tempted to rush simply because you want relief? Hope in this section is practical. Hope looks like realizing you do not have to decide everything this week. Hope looks like trusting that clarity grows with patience. Hope looks like choosing one wise step instead of 10 reactive ones. This is also a season to listen more than speak. Not because your voice lacks value, but because discernment sharpens in stillness. When you reduce noise, guidance becomes clearer. You stop reacting and start responding. As you apply these instructions, pause before deciding. Refuse to interpret silence. Protect your energy. You create space. And space is where God often moves most clearly. Not in chaos, not in panic, in space. This is how you cooperate with the shift instead of fighting it. You move steadily, not dramatically. You build stability that lasts longer than emotional highs. If you feel aligned with this wisdom and you are choosing patience over impulse in this season, comment 314 as a quiet marker of your commitment to move with clarity, not haste. The number 314 represents order returning before outcome appears. 3 reflects alignment of mind, body, and spirit. 1 signals a new beginning made with intention. 4 speaks of foundation and stability. Together, it marks a decision to rebuild your life slowly, wisely, and without panic. When you choose 314, you are declaring that you will not rush the process or force results. You are committing to structure over impulse, patience over pressure, and clarity over emotional noise. It is a reminder that lasting change is built deliberately, not emotionally. Separation often begins quietly, almost invisibly. It does not always arrive as conflict or loss. Sometimes it comes as a fading attachment, a dulling interest, or a sense that something familiar no longer nourishes you. You notice it when what once excited you now exhausts you, and what once felt necessary now feels optional. This is not confusion, this is refinement. Acceleration in separation can feel unsettling because it challenges your sense of continuity. You expect change to come gradually, with explanation and closure. But this season moves differently. Things are being removed faster than you can analyze them. Conversations end without resolution. Opportunities dissolve without apology. Certain habits lose their grip overnight. You are not being destabilized, you are being lightened. The reason this separation feels sudden is because delay would have weakened your resolve. Prolonged attachment would have made you negotiate with what must end. So heaven accelerates the process, not to hurt you, but to protect what is coming next. Some exits must be swift to prevent you from turning back. In everyday life, this shows up clearly. At work, you may realize that the environment you tolerated no longer aligns with your values. You are not angry. You are clear. You stop over-investing emotionally. You do your work with excellence, but you no longer attach your identity to validation there. That emotional separation is preparation for a shift you cannot yet see. In finances, separation may mean releasing the mindset of scarcity you inherited, not just the habits you formed. You begin to notice how fear once dictated your decisions. Now, even if resources are still limited, your thinking expands. You stop clinging tightly to every outcome. That internal release changes how you steward what you have. In relationships, separation can be the most painful because it touches memory and loyalty. Some people are not leaving because of betrayal or conflict, but because the season of mutual growth has ended. You may still love them, respect them, pray for them, yet feel peace letting distance grow. That peace is not coldness, it is discernment. The ancient words recorded in 2 Corinthians chapter 6 on verse 17 still echo today. Therefore come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord, and touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. This is not a call to isolation or superiority. It is a call to alignment. Separation is not about rejecting people. It is about refusing to be shaped by what contradicts your calling. You are not asked to condemn. You are asked to choose carefully what has influence over you. Notice how separation clarifies your priorities. You spend less time explaining yourself. You stop chasing closure. You stop needing agreement to move forward. That quiet confidence is not arrogance, it is maturity. When separation is healthy, it brings peace, not chaos. There may be moments when you grieve what is leaving. That grief is valid. Even necessary endings can hurt. But grief does not mean the separation is wrong. It means the connection mattered. Honor that without reopening the door. A very ordinary example: you pick up your phone and scroll, but certain content no longer satisfies. It once distracted you, now it drains you. You close the app sooner. That small separation matters. It trains your attention. It creates space. And space is where clarity grows. Another example: conversations that used to spiral into gossip or complaint now feel heavy. You find yourself listening less, contributing less, sometimes excusing yourself entirely. You are not judging. You are guarding your inner environment. That boundary protects your peace. Ask yourself this honestly: what has been falling away recently without you forcing it? Hope in this season is subtle but strong. Separation does not leave you empty. It makes room. You may not yet see what will fill that space, but you will. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does purpose. What leaves now cannot follow you where you are going. Acceleration also means you are being trusted with discernment. You no longer need dramatic signs to know when something is misaligned. A lack of peace is enough. A quiet resistance is enough. You do not need permission to honor that. There is also relief hidden here. Fewer distractions. Fewer obligations. Fewer emotional negotiation. Life becomes simpler, not because it is smaller, but because it is clearer. Simplicity is strength in disguise. This separation prepares you for connection at a higher level. New relationships, new responsibilities, new influence. These require space. They require focus. They require a heart not divided by lingering attachments. You are not losing your life. You are shedding weight, and what remains will move faster, stand stronger, and last longer. Let the separation continue without resistance. What stays will be aligned. What leaves will not define you. And what comes next will fit you better than anything you had to outgrow. What is leaving now is not being taken from you. It is being released for your protection. You are learning to trust that peace is a more reliable guide than familiarity or history. Soon you will recognize that the emptiness you feared was actually preparation. Space was created so that what truly belongs to your next season can arrive without resistance. You arrive here not by accident, but by accumulation. Every pause you honored, every separation you accepted, every instruction you practiced has brought you to this threshold. This is the moment where preparation becomes movement, not rushed, not forced, but deliberate. You are no longer standing between worlds. You are stepping into the life that has been quietly forming while you thought nothing was happening. Stepping into the changed life does not feel like fireworks at first. It feels like steadiness. You wake up and notice your thoughts are calmer. Decisions feel cleaner. You are not pulled in 10 directions anymore. What once tempted you no longer holds the same weight. This is what alignment feels like before celebration catches up. The changed life begins internally. You stop negotiating with what drains you. You stop proving what no longer needs explanation. You stop shrinking to maintain peace. Instead, peace becomes the environment you carry. That peace is not fragile. It is earned through obedience, restraint, and trust. In your work, this new life shows up as authority without aggression. You speak clearly. You act intentionally. You are no longer driven by fear of being overlooked, because you understand that what is meant for you cannot miss you. You work diligently, but you do not tie your worth to outcomes. That detachment creates excellence without exhaustion. In finances, the changed life feels like confidence replacing panic. You may not yet have everything you want, but you are no longer afraid of what you have. You steward instead of stress. You plan instead of react, and slowly. Stability grows not just in numbers, but in mindset. Provision flows more easily when fear steps aside. In relationships, you feel lighter. You no longer chase connection that requires self-betrayal. You show up honestly without masks. Some relationships deepen, others remain distant. Both outcomes feel peaceful. You finally understand that alignment attracts what belongs and repels what does not. This is where many people get confused. They expect the changed life to announce itself loudly. But transformation often whispers before it sings. It feels like clarity before confirmation. It feels like inner agreement before external reward. And that is how you know it is real. The Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 17. If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here. Notice the language, has come. Not will come someday. Not arrives only after everything is perfect. The new is here even while you are still adjusting to it. You do not step into a changed life once you feel ready. You grow into it by walking forward anyway. Ask yourself this direct question if you truly believed your life has shifted. What would you stop tolerating starting today? Hope here becomes tangible. Hope looks like planning for the future without dread. Hope looks like trusting your discernment instead of second-guessing it. Hope looks like choosing rest without guilt. These are not small victories. They are signs that the old life no longer governs you. You are not the same person who began this journey. You have learned patience. You have learned restraint. You have learned to listen. These are the marks of someone prepared to carry more, not just materially, but spiritually and emotionally. And if something in this message resonated quietly in your heart, letting it be acknowledged matters. A simple gesture of appreciation is like a nod along the path, a way of saying, "This strengthened me." Some lights are not lit for attention, but to honor what helped you stand a little taller today. This is why connection matters. Just as travelers light lanterns along a path not because the road is dark, but because shared light makes the journey meaningful. Staying connected to messages that strengthen you is not obligation. It is intention. When you choose to walk alongside others who are also aligning, the road feels less lonely and more purposeful. Sharing what resonates is like leaving a signpost for someone behind you. Subscribing is like choosing to keep walking together. step by step, season by season. Commenting is not noise, it is presence. It is saying, I am here, I am aware, I am moving forward. The changed life is not about perfection, it is about direction. And your direction is clear now. Forward, lighter, steadier, more aligned than you have ever been. You are crowned not because you conquered everything, but because you endured wisely. You are marked not by struggle, but by growth. You are prepared not because you rushed, but because you waited well. As you move ahead, remember this: you do not need to convince anyone of who you are becoming. Your life will speak for itself, quietly, powerfully, consistently. If this message has walked with you, let it walk further. If it has lit something in you, let that light travel. If it has steadied you, stay close to what strengthens you. These are not commands. They are invitations. You are stepping into the changed life now, and this time, you are ready. You do not need to rush to close this moment. Let it linger with you. Some messages are not meant to be consumed and forgotten. They are meant to be carried quietly into the next ordinary day, where real change actually happens. You may not remember every word, but you will remember how it made you pause, how it softened something inside, how it gave language to what you have been feeling but could not explain. If this message helped you see your life more clearly, even for a brief moment, you are free to let it travel. Sharing is not an obligation. It is simply a way of saying, this mattered to me. Someone else may be standing where you once stood, needing the same reminder that alignment is possible, that waiting is not wasted, that change can arrive gently. And if you choose not to share it, that is equally honorable. You can keep what touched you. You can hold on to the sentence that steadied you, the image that gave you hope, the idea that made you feel less alone. Some truths are meant to be protected before they are spoken aloud. Growth does not require an audience. What matters most is not what you do next online, but what shifts quietly within you offline. How you breathe tomorrow, how you respond instead of react, how you listen to your own discernment with a little more trust than before. That is where this message completes its work. You do not have to label this moment. You do not have to prove anything changed. Simply notice what stays with you. Notice what feels lighter. Notice what no longer feels necessary to carry. Leave this space the same way you entered it freely. Take what strengthens you. Release what does not. And trust that whatever stirred in you today will continue to unfold in its own time. The path remains open. What you do with it is yours.